Well, let's bring on Zach now, who's the host of the Pro Gaming Society podcast. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad. Toby, yourself?
Yep, I'm doing great as well.
Excellent, mate.
So the Pro Gaming Society podcast, I take it's mainly about gaming, right?
Indeed. Gaming across board. So PGS, all the events and performances inside the PGS platform. So you've got FIFA, we've got F1, we've got Fortnite, COD, Call of Duty, etc., etc.
Yeah, and that's quite a diverse mix of games, isn't it, really? So do you enjoy each one of them?
It is a diverse mix of games. I mean, my favorite personally is FIFA. Predominantly on the PGS podcast, we talk a little bit more about FIFA than we do other gaming platforms. But that's not something that we are. It's not rigid, and we are looking to changes going forwards. But predominantly, it's FIFA. The PGS, we have a myriad of leagues or multitude of leagues within the platform. So within this country, abroad. So it's quite interesting actually. Have you ever tuned in?
I
yourself?
listened to part of it this morning.
Okay, good. What did you think?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because it's not just you. Of course, you've got a couple of guests on, and it's a good conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Cheers. Appreciate that.
So in each episode, do you allocate each episode to a particular sport, or do you like to kind of keep it open?
No, we keep it open. Toby. I think the esports community, gaming community in general, is a very diverse community, as you know.
Yeah.
But I think what our responsibility is to make sure that our community is thriving, minus the toxicity, minus any issues that could actually bring down what we're trying to do as a community. So, every week we look at important scenarios. It could be some of the issues that we're facing within the gaming industry or within just the PGS.
Yeah.
So, for instance, every time we play a game of pro clubs competitively on FIFA, we have to do our stats on the app.
Yeah.
So, it's a thing whereby, and sometimes some people have problems sort of trying to gauge or navigate the app. So what we do is we can have a show based on this. We also have a situation where, there are various managers who are keen to manage within the PGS realm. So be it manage a team or manage a server. So we have a segment on the show called Manager's Corner, where we have experienced individuals come in and talk about their experiences, in order to help any budding managers looking to get into it, etc. So it's a myriad of topics. We had recently we had International Women's Day month. We had a show dedicated to why it is that we don't have as many women in esports as men, particularly on FIFA. So it's a very generic show, but we do focus on the community a lot.
Yeah, and that International Women's Month special was kind of important, I suppose, because sport seems to be one of the industries where women's versions of sports exist, but they don't seem to get nearly as much as the coverage and popularity, really.
Absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. I play for a team called Team Sweet, and we're in quite a few leagues in the PGS. And, one of the things that we were quite keen to do from day one was make it a very diverse community and server. Yeah. So we are welcoming women to play with us. I understand that it's not prevalent across all or prominent across all mediums in terms of gaming mediums, but we are very keen to, change that narrative and make sure that the inclusive, aspect of gaming is there. So which includes making sure women are seen as palatable, scenarios when it comes to gaming, i.e. football, and I like what EA did recently when they brought in, the women's being able to pick a woman pro as opposed to just males. So this changes the narrative as well, and it ensures that we are all, playing a game that we all love, and not just because we're boys and girls, but because we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that is quite surprising though that they've only just allowed you to pick a women player though.
It's not just recent. I mean, I'll say it's in the last. I think 2018-19 was the first time they brought it in, and it did cause a bit of a like, oh, okay, here we go. But then it coincided with the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
That whole furore around it. So, and rightly so, Toby. Yeah. So we're pleased. I think it's evolving, similar to real life. When you talk about diversity within the FA, for instance, we are evolving slowly, but surely we'll get there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we feel about the esports world as well.
Yeah, and gaming in general is something that's stereotypically associated with men. So when you mix the two together and get esports, is it a very male-dominated place to be?
It is very male-dominated, but one thing I will say is that of all the women that I've spoken to, I mean, it's not that many. There are loads more women pros, particularly professionals that play at a professional level within esports. Yeah. They all have have a particular issue, be it fear or being, in the midst of loads of men in a party chat, for instance, when they're playing football, or, some of them just don't understand that distance. And at the end of the day, there are many competent female players in this realm. So, but then, Toby, another problem is that not all of them want to come out and talk about these issues. So, we're stuck in a rock and a hard place there. So I think my advice to female ballers, gamers, is if we have a scenario where you are given an opportunity to talk on these issues, please do so and come forward, because you're actually helping others who wouldn't have come out and spoken about this. So, for instance, role models within esports, female role models. There's a lot of female footballers who are role models, but aren't that many within the esports realm. So there are a lot of things we can do better, and the PGS are trying to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the growth of esports, do you think it's a growing industry? Because it certainly seems to be quite popular. FIFA seem to be always releasing a new version of their game.
I mean, Toby, let's just talk numbers. I mean, look, in 2018, the gross profit, this is net, by the way, it was $490 million. This is the investment in esports industry. That's the revenue it was generating on a yearly basis.
Wow.
Now, fast forward to more recent times, it's now worth 4.5 billion. So when you ask the question of, is it growing? Yes, absolutely. Not just on the in the forefront, i.e. the playing side, but also on the business side, the background. It's a big business, and there are loads of big businesses trying to get involved and trying to invest and being sponsors, etc. So you've got the likes of FaZe Clan, for instance, who are multi-million-pound business, but they're also just they are similar to us, a platform that enables all gamers to be able to apply their trade, be it professionally or just for fun. So the industry is growing massively, and we are at the precipice of some big things going on. So which is why I feel the PGS are doing some amazing work, not just on a podcast. And the official podcast isn't just on the PGS side; it does look at the global scenario within esports and just gaming in general. So FIFA is one aspect, but there are other games within the realm like F1, which are growing massively as well.
Yeah. So in terms of the podcast, how do you think it adds to the experience of being on the PGS platform?
A good question. I think as a player within the PGS realm and any competitive realm, you always want to you always want to be shouted out, or you always want to feel like your efforts are being sort of highlighted. One of the things that I like about what we're doing with the PGS podcast is, this rings to form. So every week we have a team of the week. Being able to highlight your team of the week on this show gives people impetus and motivation to do better, not just from a playing point of view, but also from a community point of view. Just be friendly to your colleagues, be nice, and create a very healthy community. Now, healthy communities beget healthy communities, so people would want to join, this platform. So in terms of the podcast, I would say the podcast is an extension of, the playing side. It basically highlights all the great work that we do, and brings to book some of the negatives that are happening as well, similar to the toxicity I talked about and the parity between men and women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's much more, absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you think the pro gaming society is going to grow in the future, and indeed the podcast? Have you got exciting plans?
Oh, we got many exciting plans. I mean, the first thing is that they need to keep me on board. That's the first thing. But no, in all seriousness, I think so we've got an app. Please, if anyone's listening, if you go into the App Store and search PGS, Pro Gaming Society, you will find us there. Sign up today. There's loads of things attached to this app in terms of it's an all-encompassing app. We check our results from there. We look at all the upcoming events coming up. We've got prizes, giveaways. So in terms of what we're trying to do with the PGS, I mean, it's a massive platform. The CEOs are working very hard in the background to make sure that we are doing more tourneys, more events, more prizes, bigger events. Some of the players that play within the realm are very good. Yeah. So from a competitive level, we want to make sure that we are challenging them, making sure that they're entering. So we've got a World Cup coming up soon, and you can imagine the furore with the World Cup. That many teams split up all of these countries. It's very exciting times. There's been trials happening. Everybody's buzzing. So we want to keep this buzz level up for many more things coming up. It could be something to do with Fortnite. It could be an event that's coming up that people could sign up to and get involved in. It's the fun aspect, but also the competitive edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is as well that FIFA is based on a real sport, football, whereas Fortnite is an isn't a real sport in real life. So
It's not.
they're
It's
very
not.
different games, aren't they?
Very different games, but you know what it is, Toby? We have to appeal to our audience.
Yeah.
If our audience say they would like to have this scenario and make it competitive, fine.
Mm.
So what's happened in the last, I would say, year since we've been incepted was that we've had players come in playing for fun,
Yeah.
but they found that actually they've got something so much better that they'd like to be competitive. So having the option, I think it's what sets us aside. And so not to sort of keep banging on about it, but I do feel that we are pioneering something quite new here. So if you are just a lazy player, come and join us. There's things you can get involved in, events. But if you're a competitive player and you want to be challenged even further, again, come and join us. We have a myriad of leagues, a multitude of leagues within our realm. And I'm yet to meet someone that says they haven't been challenged within this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can we find the Pro Gaming Society podcast and indeed the Pro Gaming Society in general?
Right, search PGS on the App Store. The PGS podcast is available to listen to live each and every Sunday at 7 p.m., 7 till 8. You can also download a copy of the live show straight after the show's finished on the same app. So we're on Podbean. If you download Podbean and search PGS, you find me and us every Sunday, 7 till 8. We've also got another show coming up during the week, which highlights the individual players. So all the players that we feel that have done well in the week, we'll highlight them in the week on a special show dedicated to the players. So big exciting things coming up, Toby.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for coming on the show today. It's been great chatting to you.
Thank you very much, Toby. Have a great day, mate. Cheers.